It's time we answer a question on your stock in a little segment we like to call Your Stock, Our Take. Buy, sell, or hold.
And I think this is a little bit topical because Hut 8 is a crypto company, primarily a crypto mining company. And it's, I believe, one of the largest crypto mining companies on the public market. So a lot of talk about crypto right now. So it's good that we take a look at one of the players in the space. So Hut 8 Mining, it trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol HUT. I believe it also has a NASDAQ listing as well. Trades at $2.30 per share. It's about a 450 million market cap company. As I said, they're primarily a digital currency, a Bitcoin mining company. They also include in their company description that they have other related technology solutions and infrastructure for the digital economy. Taking a look at the share price of this company, down about 71% over the last year. So it's been a very tough ride over the last year for most technology companies, and crypto is certainly no exception. Especially recently, there's been a lot of negative press in the crypto space, and Bitcoin's performance as well has been extremely lackluster, as we will see shortly. Now, this is a 5-year chart of Hut 8, and we can see I actually got up to a all-time high of about $19 per share towards the end of 2021. So that was around the time that the tech market peaked out, that, you know, a lot of these high growth, more speculative areas like crypto peaked out. And it's pretty much been straight down since then, with a couple bounces off the bottom like we've seen recently. Now, obviously, being a Bitcoin mining company, their wagon is connected to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has had very difficult year, very difficult 18 months, down 67% from its highs. So right now, about 22,000 per coin US. And that's down from its peak of over 65,000 per coin. So very difficult for companies in this space to make any money when the currency that they're mining is depreciating in value. But the question was really about whether or not it is an opportunity right now, given the crash in the crypto markets. A lot of time, there's a saying that said that, you know, the best time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. So I think it's a very reasonable question to ask. Where are the opportunities? Now, looking at Hut 8, you know, with any company, you have to really start with the financials. What are they producing? A lot of people like to start with the story, but the financials really tell a story. Is the company producing revenue? Is it producing cash flow? So the first thing I notice about Hut 8 Mining is negative gross profit margin for the most recent quarter and for the first 9 months of 2022. So what is a negative gross profit margin? Well, the gross profit is essentially your revenue less your direct cost to produce that revenue. So if you're selling widgets, for example, your gross profit on a widget would be whatever you're making off of the sale of that widget minus the cost of the labor to produce it, the cost of the parts to produce it, the materials, and then the overhead directly involved in the production of that unit that can be associated to that unit. So you really rarely see a negative gross profit margin. Now, this is a completely different kind of business. I have to say that there's nothing more speculative, probably even there's nothing more speculative than a company that is producing a negative gross profit margin. You rarely ever see this kind of thing. And to kind of give an analogy, that would be like having a business where you generate revenue by paying somebody. You generate $10 in revenue by paying somebody $15. So you go out to the market and you find customers by saying, "I'll give you $15 if you give me $10 back." So every time you make a sale, essentially, you're losing money. So we don't even need to look further down the income statement. This company is certainly not close to profitability in the current year. Looking at the cash flow statement for the first 9 months of the year, operating cash flow negative $82 million. So 450 million market cap company, probably burning about 100 million a year at this rate, just in operating cash flow. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story, though, because they also spent another $138 million on capital expenditures, plant and equipment. Now, I don't know exactly what this is, but this is part of the cash burn. So if you take that 82 million plus 138, you're now well over 200 million, or nearly half, probably around half the company's market cap burnt in cash flow, a negative cash flow just over the first 9 months of a year. Certainly something to be concerned about here in terms of how they're going to continue to operate as a going concern if their market doesn't recover. I did take a look at the historical financials. It does appear that the company did have a couple of years, 2019, 2020, where they produced a small amount of cash flow, about 14 million in 2019, 1.2 million in 2020. But then in 2021, in spite of huge revenue growth, 174 million up from 40 million in the year before, they burnt through about 80 million in cash flow. Now, I know that one of the things that the company does, from reading its press release, I understand, is when they mine Bitcoin, they don't necessarily sell it and convert it into cash. They hold it on their balance sheet. So that may be part of the reason why they produce negative cash flow in 2021, in spite of 48 million in reported operating income. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, most businesses, vendors, suppliers don't accept Bitcoin right now. And when you're holding Bitcoin, you're holding obviously a very volatile commodity, as we've seen with the price of Bitcoin and where it's gone over the past 18 months. So we're not in the business of trying to predict where cryptocurrency prices are going to be. I think that that's, fool's errand. So we cannot really look at the crypto that they have on their balance sheet and consider that cash. Just by marking to market it. So where do we go from here? Is this an opportunity? I would say no. Certainly by doing my financial analysis, all I'm seeing is risk and speculation. It's not a company I would personally buy. And just as a overall commentary on the crypto space, I really believe that we're coming into what's called a crypto winter. What that means is when you call a technology, you say it's going into a winter, you essentially mean that interest is dying in the technology. There's going to be no innovation. There's not going to be a lot of investment. And I think that's what we're facing for crypto right now. There have been a large number of pieces of negative press that have come out on the space. The biggest thing, of course, is FXT, which is the large crypto exchange run by Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, who that's a major bankruptcy, absolutely billions and billions of dollars lost. A lot of what were considered to be smart venture capitalists looking very foolish investing in this. Sam SBF arrested. I believe he may be in jail or maybe out on bail. I'm not really sure, but that's really at the top of the headlines. But it's not the only thing. There have been other. I think Coinbase is facing a multi-$100 million fine. There have been other bankruptcies. Just a lot of negative press. And my understanding is that investors don't want to touch it right now. And I'm not talking retail investors in the stock market, although I think that my statement also applies to them. I'm talking venture capital investors. There's just no money that's going to go into cryptocurrencies over at least the foreseeable future here, given all of the negativity that's come out. So I don't think that there's going to be any turnaround for this space anytime soon, certainly not in the current year. That doesn't necessarily mean that digital currency doesn't have its place, but what we also have to understand is that we already use digital currency, because the fact of the matter is we don't have, most people don't use cash anymore. The currency that we use is electronic. The difference between crypto and the digital currency we use is that crypto is supposed to be outside of the control of government. But it's a very complicated space. People have tried to understand it. They've absolutely lost their shirts from an investment perspective. So my view is that the market's going to take a pause on giving any credibility. And I think that there's potentially further downside to come.
Yeah. No, I do think that they are, crypto companies are kind of going into a crypto winter. Like, I know not too long ago, Binance, which was essentially the primary competitor to FTX, was also having essentially like a bank run on a lot of the accounts essentially, or funds that people had deposited within their accounts. So, the CEO of that business was saying that, this is something we've seen before, but is keeping a close eye on it because I believe they saw outflows of over about 1.14 billion, just essentially due to, the risk and people getting a little bit worried.
Well, there's people that have put their money they put money in these exchanges and then the money's just gone. So how is that, even if you have another exchange that is legitimate, how are people going to trust it? I mean, it's still a very unregulated industry for the most part. And it's just the trust has evaporated, I think, from a perspective of users or people that are going to use these exchanges, but then also from the perspective of people that are going to invest in it as well.
What I'd say about like this segment is, and a company like Hut 8, it's going to follow the price of Bitcoin. There was a time, I think in December, where about like 63% of their market cap was essentially held in the price of the crypto, the Bitcoin that they held. I think of the Marathon Digital's Hut 8, Riot, Hive, I think, and
Bitfarms.
They have had the largest amount to their market cap of Bitcoin in the bank. Now, so it just, to me, like a gold company.
In that case, why not just buy some Bitcoin if that's what you want to invest in?
It's true. Right? And like you've seen the price of Bitcoin this year has actually, had a significant rally. I think year to date, Bitcoin is up like 28%. I mean, down massively last year, but year to date to start this year up significantly. So, if Bitcoin is up this year significantly, a company like Hut 8 probably does better, right? But I mean, it's just going to follow the price of like a gold stock follows the price of gold. Likely in this case, it's going to follow. But there are some other, as I understand, their growth in mining has come down, right? So the amount of Bitcoin that they've been mining too. So there's some concerns with the company outside of that. Like it would be this is not completely direct comparison, but if a mining company is producing less, even if the price of gold is going up, it can go up with the sentiment, but the underlying fundamentals of the business isn't good if you're producing less or the growth rate comes down. Any other thoughts on that, Brett?
Yeah, I can comment quickly on a couple of things here, because before I actually was at Keystone, I wrote quite a few articles on Bitcoin miners, so I do have a bit of a background in it. First of all, Hut 8 about right now, it's about 50% market cap is in Bitcoin. Yeah. But second on the gross income, what you'll see them commonly state is their cost to mine Bitcoin in electricity cost is about $10,000. Depends on the miner, depends on where they're mining at. Probably between $9,000 and $11,000 for the most part for these self-mining Bitcoin operators. But then on top of that, you have the depreciation of their ASICs, which are the machines that are mining the Bitcoin. You can think of them as the pickaxe or the excavator in a gold mining scenario. But this year, for those ASICs, many of them have went to about a fifth of the value. So even bigger drop than Bitcoin itself. So you'll see these massive depreciation numbers or fair value adjustments for them. Some of them are defaulting purposely on the loans, which they had to secure these equipment. Hut 8 not in this case, but there's a few other companies. And they're purposely defaulting because the equipment itself is so cheap. So you're seeing quite a few of these companies restructure their finances. They might do well if Bitcoin goes up. I've always wrote in the articles, which I did write, that if you don't believe in Bitcoin, these companies are not for you. They're well more speculative than gold, silver, any of those rare metals. So yeah, no, like there is a bit of an operational difference between them. So Hut 8, I would say their balance sheet is stronger than quite a these other few. They don't have any loans. Many of them did take on loans. They secured their equipment through various loan structures, or they just took out debt and they bought Bitcoin, which in many cases, some of these have went to a recent bankruptcy for a miner was Core Scientific, and they actually had the biggest hash rate out of any of these companies.
Which is the rate that they can essentially mine Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Hash rate? Yeah.
Yeah. Hash rate is the other thing which
let me ask you this then. Is that an opportunity for a company like Hut 8? Because my understanding is that as more competition comes into the mining space, it becomes harder to mine Bitcoin, right, for each operator. So if we're seeing some companies go bankrupt essentially due to poor balance sheets, is that then an opportunity for whatever companies are remaining to essentially get better performance from their mining operations?
Yeah, and that's exactly what some of them are doing. Is obviously they are Bitcoin believers to whatever varying extent, and Hut 8 in this case is, the issue with them is they held the Bitcoin down. Other ones were selling as they go. Not many of them. Most of them were holding like Hut 8, but some of them did sell as they went down, and now they're in a position to buy up these cheap basics. They're planning on expanding their hash rate. And the other thing which we should note is, which I mentioned, I think in it was our New Year special, is the halvening's coming up, and that will just directly cut in half all the revenue. It will keep the cost the same, cut the revenue in half, and that's in about a year and a half from now.
That's for Bitcoin.
So these companies, yes, for Bitcoin specifically, and all these cryptocurrency mining companies are effectively exclusively Bitcoin at this point, ever since Ethereum switched to proof of stake, so they can no longer mine it, which Hut 8 was doing. So they actually had a nice, juicy revenue coming in that was cheaper to get up until September of 2022, and now it's just gone. I think they were about 10 to 20% Ethereum. Some companies were more, and some just didn't touch it.
That's
so basically
very interesting.
It is 90% of your portfolio.
Oh yeah. I'm actually leveraged, so I'm think about 10 times right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I go on. I did FTX. I'm at 110% leverage. I think right now.
It's a complicated space, and as you're explaining here, I mean, like you take a look at Ethereum. You know, a lot of companies were making money mining Ethereum. Then all of a sudden, they changed the way that the cryptocurrency operates. Mining doesn't exist anymore. My understanding is it's not as easy to do with Bitcoin, but you're saying that there's other issues upcoming with Bitcoin, and then that also doesn't include, negative regulation on cryptocurrencies from countries like China or other places as well. So it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen.
So once again, if you're a believer, maybe you just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're trying to,
believer, buy Bitcoin. If you like the operations of the company, if you like the balance sheet, you can shift that way. Yeah. But yeah, we should move on before I rant some more.
For sure, we're good.